Boy, oh boy. We got a new fighter, people. Looks like Coil is out, and he's got a lot of interesting moves. This is a guide for Coil. Let's get right into it. Whether you're stomping people like Goombas, throwing dash punches, or shielding your enemies in a classic bandhammer mosh pit, Coil can be a pretty daunting task to control. I've been playing with him non-stop for about a week, and I think I can confidently create a guide for him about now. Just as a disclaimer, Coil is not for beginners. This character requires a ton of focus, a good game sense, and good aim. In fact, he might be the most difficult fighter to master at the moment in the game. I sure haven't mastered him yet, but I hope this guide can help some of you get started. I'll be splitting this guide by first briefly explaining each of his movesets, then I'll go over how to actually use him in various situations and in a normal round. How about we get started? Coil has two main gimmicks. First, he can change between his speed, gravity, and regen coil by pressing R. Secondly, by doing damage and other methods depending on the current coil, his grade goes up, which increases the buff on your current coil and the buff of the person you're tethered to, which I'll go over later. You can see it go up right under your crosshair. You start at grade C, where it increases to B, and then A, and then S, where it will stay until you either stop gaining grade or combo break, which you do with your M2. Hitting an M2 at S grade resets your grade at C, but gives you a large temporary buff on your current coil, and a large temporary buff to the person you're tethered to. Along with this, your teammates nearby also get a small boost of your current coil. Now, let's briefly go over all the different coils. His primary, or M1, throws semi-fast punches that do 12 damage each. His secondary in this form is an uppercut, which sends you pretty high into the air, higher with each grade in fact, dealing 18 damage. His E move in Gravity Coil has an aerial and a ground variant. Pressing E on the ground will have him wind up a punch and slam into the ground, dealing 15 damage. Using this move in the air will send you quickly slamming towards the ground. This will do nothing if you don't hit anyone, but upon striking someone from above with this move, it will also deal 15 damage and send you bouncing back into the air, increasing with your grade. Hitting someone with your aerial instantly resets this move, this can only be done once, and lets you strike from above again. Pressing Q in the direction of a nearby ally will tether you to them. This will give them a jump boost, which will increase with each grade. This buff will go away if your tethered teammate gets too far from you, and will remain a jump boost even if you change coils. Changing to speed coil will give you, well, speed, increasing with each grade. His primary involves throwing punches at a high speed, dealing 6 damage each punch. Your secondary dashes you forward and has you punch downward, dealing 15 damage to anybody hit in the range. Coil's speedy is fairly interesting. You dash forward, dealing no damage, but instead negating any damage that you would have been dealt when you dashed. The more damage you avoid taking when you use this move, the more it increases your grade. His tether ability or Q ability grants speed to the person attached, increasing with grade. The regen coil grants you constant healing, which increases with each grade. It has semi-fast M1s that do 8 damage each punch. Regen's M2 sends a projectile forward that has a range of 50 studs and deals 12 damage. His E move in Regen creates a temporary shield in front of you that converts any damage taken by that shield into regeneration and health for nearby teammates and your tethered teammate. Any other damage taken by you while this is happening increases your grade. Regen's tether or Q ability gives your teammate a healing effect that increases in strength with each grade. You can see here how the healing accelerates with each grade. Coil's finisher is incredibly powerful. It gives you 10 seconds of his fusion coil, which grants you speed, regen, and jump boost. You start by launching yourself forward, and if you hit someone, it grabs them and slams them into the ground, dealing 35 total damage, and then stunning them. Each primary punch has incredible range and does 14 damage. His M2 freezes you in the air and sends an even longer ranged punch doing 28 damage and has similar AoE. Landing an M2 at S grade during your finisher grants nearby teammates regen, speed, and jump boost. The Q move does not tether in this form and instead bounces you upwards with an AoE around the base of the jump that does 12 damage. Whether you're in the ground or in the air, the E move slams you down, creating an AoE that deals 12 damage further out and 30 damage near the center. Now that we've got a rundown of how Coils moves work, it's time to apply them to real scenarios in game. Let's first talk about how you should be approaching the round when it first starts. As you can see here, I start by equipping my speed coil, which gets me into the round quickly, where I can then jump in and immediately place my healing effect on Banhammer, so that I can keep our tank alive. You should approach the starting mosh pit very conservatively, and start by aiming to increase your grade as much as possible so that you can give a constant healing effect to anyone who needs it for a strong start. Starting by using a well-timed speed E move is a great start, and can sometimes instantly increase your grade to S if timed well. As you can see here, with Gravity Coil, you can be quite the nuisance to any fighter that isn't Skate or Slingshot. Focusing on getting those aerial E moves in is going to keep yourself out of any immediate danger and save time for your teammates while they're focusing on shooing you off. Throughout the bulk of the game, it's important not to just go out on your own and stick close next to a fighter that you can be constantly healing and fighting alongside. Your regen E move is going to be super useful when in a large mosh pit, as not only do you increase your grade, but you also grant constant healing to your nearby teammates. Because of this grade increase, when you hit S while using your regen E, you can immediately use your M2 combo breaking and healing your teammates even more. Your speed coil is a great option for dealing damage to opposing support fighters and any low health stranglers. Speed M2 is probably what's given me the most individual kills out of any other move from Coil, letting you sneak in that last damage you need from a running enemy. If you get low, get away for a moment and equip your regen coil in order to quickly heal and get back into battle. Try to stay in a spot where you can both stay out of sight and stay tethered to a teammate to keep them alive as well. If someone is chasing you, you can use your regen E in order to stop any projectiles and heal a bit from the encounter. Using Gravity Coil to bounce around is a great way to avoid melee fighters chasing you. Here you can see a great example of me just sticking in the corner and waiting to heal a bit. When it comes to using your finisher, the first thing to note is the obvious "don't use it when you're about to die" tip. It seems like common sense, but you'd be surprised how often you find yourself panicking then using your ult when you're low. Make sure you have teammates nearby to get the maximum amount of benefit for your team out of the ult, focusing on attacking groups of 2 or more in one place to get lots of damage and grade, and try to only use your M2 when you're at S grade in order to get as many buffs from your teammates as possible. And as you can see, things went pretty well for this round. I hope that makes me a little bit more of a credible source, but of course, Coil is going to take lots of practice to get used to. But I hope this guide helped you understand Coil and his movesets better, and will prove useful for any future rounds you have with him. Happy fighting!